Fucking sorry about that, dude. You know what it is, man? My schedules are so fucked up from week to week that I get fucked up, and I apologize for that.
No problem, man. We got you on now. So here we are live. What you got? What's going on, everybody? It's Bill Bailey with today's Boondoggle. And real quick, want to give a shout out to my buddy Rich Statlander and his band Valor for the new intro music. And also, if you're watching us on YouTube or Rumble, please hit the follow and subscribe button. Really helps us out. Appreciate it. So we can get interviews like this one out to everybody out there. And without further ado, let me introduce the man of the hour, Mr. Rob Dukes.
What's
How you
up, man?
doing?
How are you? I'm
I'm
good,
good.
bud. Me too.
Good, man. Good. Yeah, we were talking right before we went on the air, getting to enjoy a stogie. I wish I would have got the memo. I would have brought mine down, you know. But hey, usually when I have somebody on, I know we got a lot to talk about, and you got quite a resume. But usually when I have somebody on for the first time, I like to get a little bit of a background. So originally, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to. I wanted to be a marine biologist. I wanted to be in the water dealing with sharks and scuba diving and just be that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a marine biologist.
That's
Uh,
awesome. Yeah, so do you live by the water and stuff?
I grew up. I spent my summers in Florida with my grandparents, and they lived near the beach. And there used to be this place called Jack's Skyway Restaurant, which was it was like a marina, and it was a restaurant and a marina. And I was about, I could have been more than 6 or 7, and I had just seen Jaws, and then I was on the we were at the restaurant. I was there with my grandparents, and I walked out to the marina part by myself, and they had just brought in like it, in my memory, it was at least a 12-foot Mako, and they had it hanging like they did in Jaws, like in that little, they were weighing it, but it had the head kind of on a curve so you could look into the mouth, and I became completely obsessed from that point on with sharks and yeah. What was the
Wow,
question?
man. Yeah, it was originally what you want to be when you grew up, and then I was
Oh,
just
okay.
curious about, um, you know, if you lived by the ocean and stuff. Like, it's funny because when I saw Jaws, I grew up in a suburb of Cleveland here, and all we got is like Lake Erie, but
Right.
our development had a swimming pool, with a diving board and all that stuff, man. And after I saw Jaws, I couldn't even swim in the deep end for a little bit, freaking myself out. So he went the
Yeah.
opposite way.
Yeah, man. I got a bunch of I have shark tattoos, and through my life, I've been scuba diving a lot, and and I didn't become a marine biologist, obviously, but I still read a lot. I still watch everything I can, and I know a shit ton about sharks and their evolution, and I was obsessed with Jaws, the movie. And the book I've read dozens of times. The book is very different from the movie in a bunch of ways. But when I was a kid, I'm like 8 years old when the movie comes out, and then I read about the Indianapolis, and my grandfather told me the story that was a true story, and I remember reading about just sharks all the time. It was my favorite subject. Yeah. So
So Shark Week's your thing then, huh?
mm. It's gotten kind of lame in the last couple of years, but when it first started, it was awesome, And then once they go start searching for Megalodon, I'm out. You know what I mean? It's like fuck off, like, fucking, you know.
Yeah, they're just
And
run out of stuff. There's only so many
yeah,
exciting things they come up with, right?
yeah, man. I mean, just just fucking run the old shit. We're fine with it. We're yeah. So,
Where do you
but
lean?
I look. What's that?
Where do you lean on Sharknado?
I watched it once, the first one, and um, and then that was it. I gave up. I just yeah, it was. I'm not. You know what? I never enjoyed movies like that. I never enjoyed goofy movies, except for like Airplane and Naked Gun and those kind of. But if you're, I mean, it wasn't like they were trying to be dramatic, but they were at the same time. If it was completely comical, then I would have been on board. But it wasn't. It was they were trying to do. I don't know what the fuck they were trying to do, but it was terrible. But I did like what was the movie called where the girl gets caught on the buoy? She's surfing and she gets too close to a dead whale, and then the shark starts hunting her. And I forget what movie it was, but it was actually not bad. I really dig the CGI sharks the way they do them. Even the Meg was tolerable because the sharks were so cool, you know. So
Nice. So when was it that like music kind of became your new love?
it always was, man. I mean, I was an only child, and my uncle was a musician. He was a bluegrass player, but he could play. He played bluegrass, but he loved rock and he loved he loved good guitar players. And my uncle Logan played all the string instruments, man, and he was really awesome. And anyway, he um, he gave me a bunch of records one time. I was young. I was, 7, 8, and he said, "Here, try these, and then give me back what you don't like." And I gave him back the Grateful Dead and Yes, and I kept the Hendrix and the Zeppelin and the Doors, and then so even as a little kid, I was listening to music beyond my years already, and but no, but at the time, growing up, you always, the way we see rock stars, the way we see musicians, it seems like it's unobtainable. It's that it's that thing you admire, but you don't ever think you can do it. And even later, you go out and you join a band when you're a teenager, and you pick up a guitar and you go play bars and you play clubs, and you never think you're going to be on the same level with your heroes. And then but I'm a testament that that's not true. That can actually happen if you're
Yeah,
in the right place, right time. So
yeah,
yeah.
for sure. So what was like the first song you learned to play, and why was it the theme from Jaws?
The first song I learned was Iron Man, of course, or it's either that or what's the Deep Purple song?
Smoke on the Water.
Smoke on the Water. It was either one of those two. That was the first thing I learned, and then I immediately realized that my friend who started the same around the same time as me was way better guitar player. So I decided that I was going to be Malcolm Young. So I never really could lead very well. I never learned how to lead really well, but I became a good rhythm guitar player. My friend was the lead player, and we just jammed. I learned I learned D by Randy Rhoads one time. I got the tablature and I took the time. It took me like a month, but I figured it out and I learned how to play uh, the song D, this acoustic thing he did on the first album. And I really, but it was so much work, and I just wanted to. I was much better playing punk rock chords and doing like Ramones songs than I. Metal was always really difficult to play for me. So and what's weird is I never, thought that being a singer would be the next option until I was in my mid 20s when I first started singing. But just never anything on a professional level. It was always just in a basement with my friends or in a practice room somewhere. Um, yeah, I didn't join Exodus till I was 36, and it was trial by fire, man. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I really know. I'd never done anything at this level, so it was just all right, here we go. Let me fucking try it, you know.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you. So, like you said, you were mostly jamming with friends in basements and stuff like that. But did you guys ever kind of put any type of bands together before uh, Exodus, where you actually like played out at local clubs or anything?
Yeah, I mean, I was a guitar player. I played in a, like a ska, reggae, punk rock band, kind of like Sublime. Um, we had a little bit of, Pennywise in us, a little bit of that, Bad Religion. We're more Southern Cal punk rock, that second wave of punk rock. The guys, I was a little bit older than the guys, so that's kind of what they were into, and I was too at the time. I still am, but I was, more of the Clash and TSOL and Circle Jerks, but I also had a little bit of that, like New York, Agnostic Front and the Cro-Mags. So, but it was more like a party band. It wasn't anything. We did a dozen gigs, maybe more, and then it just, it just ended. I did another thing with my friend Craig. We wrote a bunch of songs and recorded them. Went to a studio, and I played the guitar and I sang and I did the bass and we played the drums, and we wrote these songs, and they were all they were two fucking idiots writing these goofy songs. They weren't goofy. They were actually they were fun. They were fun to play, and it was the beginning of a creative side of me that I started doing when I got sober. So I got sober when I was 25, and from 15 to 25, I drank really heavily, and because of my drinking, I didn't get a lot accomplished. I was more of a party guy. I just drank a lot of beer, and drank a lot of booze, and smoked a lot of weed, and did a lot of psychedelics, and but I didn't accomplish anything. I didn't. I didn't. It definitely stifled my creativity. I didn't, like I said, I didn't get anything done. I did a lot of sitting on the couch, going, oh, tomorrow I'm gonna start a band, and then I would drink myself into oblivion, and I did that for a long time, and then when I was 25, I quit drinking, and I just started to actually do the things I said I was, thinking about. So that was a huge change in my life. And that was 29 years ago. I've been sober ever since, and
Yeah, that's awesome.
I've accomplished I've accomplished a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah, I didn't, I wasn't aware of that. I'm glad you shared that. I recently, just this year, celebrated 13 years sobriety
nice,
myself.
man.
So, I mean,
I
I
know.
kind of got into it a little later, but I can relate to all that like wasting time. I mean,
Yeah,
I was in the Navy, so it was kind of like, it was part of the culture,
yeah, yeah.
But
I mean, I was living in New York, hanging out with a bunch of metal punk rock dudes, and it was part of the culture. It was just what we did. You know, and yeah,
but now it's
right.
like, got home from my final deployment. I had two little girls when I came home, and it was just like, man, I need to change some things up, and
Yeah,
started working a program, and it's like now I'm like, they want to be with me. They took me out for Father's Day, they want me around now, is getting stuff done, doing this
right.
podcast and stuff. So yeah, man,
Yeah,
it's a beautiful life, man. I've met a lot of amazing people, especially in the music industry that you know are in recovery and stuff. So
yeah, yeah, man.
great
I mean,
fellowship.
I do too. I know a bunch of people, and it's a weird dynamic to be a part of the world, and but you know what, man? Nobody. I never. Uh, these are my personal choices, and I never cared what anyone else did, unless it affected me personally. You know what I mean? If somebody got drunk and got in my face, and yeah, I would deal with the situation there. But for the most part, man, unless somebody got out of hand, I didn't care what anyone did. You know what I mean? I just lived. I knew that this was part of the life, and I was never afraid of it. I knew I had made the choice for myself and myself only. And I was just talking with somebody today that I got a friend of mine who's in some trouble, and trying to figure out a way to help him out. You know, so they called me up and asked me, and I'm gonna meet with them later for coffee and try to give them a plan or help them come up with at least the first plan to get the guy some help. So
Yeah, I mean, that's that's what I've learned in this journey too. It's just like, now we can be of use, and help for others. We went
mhm.
through what we went through, so we can help others that are just beginning the journey. And the more we get to help others, the more it takes us out of our headspace.
Yeah, man, yeah, and it's what's funny is that I know that I spoke with Gary Holt the other day because he had a year sober, so he quit drinking too, and and we were talking about that very thing, like how much you actually get done when that's because it's so much work sometimes to just remain, you know what I mean, to keep your head together that way when you're drinking. It's like sometimes for some people, and this isn't for everybody. I know a ton of musicians who can, go on tour, be complete maniacs, drink like fish, and then come home from tour and turn it off and be completely normal and not have any repercussions whatsoever. I know a ton of people like that, and I, respect them as much as they respect me that I don't drink at all. You know what I mean? So there's not everybody who parties is a fucking maniac all the time. Some people are able to just. I wish I was one of them, man. I really do, but I'm not. You know what I mean?
I
I know
know, man.
myself. Yeah.
I can relate. Like I said, I got quite a few um, friends in the music world that I'm thinking of right now. As soon as you said that, and I'm like, yeah, man, it's great. They can do it and then turn it off, man. There's no off switch for me when I was doing it, man. I was getting kicked out of,
Yeah.
I was a guest in dressing rooms, and I'm drinking half the beer rider. They're get them out of here. It's out of
uh,
control. But
I remember one time my friend's band opened up for Blois Colt, and we went to the and we got there early for loading because we just did, and we went into the wrong dressing room, and I drank their entire alcohol. Like I drank all their beer, and they showed up and like, "Oh, you're in the wrong dressing room." Like these motherfuckers drank all our shit. And I caused all this fucking mayhem because I was such a maniac back then. Yeah.
yeah, man, what good times, huh?
Hmm.
Well, let's talk a little bit about so then like how the whole Exodus thing came together for you then.
Yeah. Well, I was a guitar tech for a few bands, and I got the opportunity to go on tour with Exodus. My buddy Jeff Hickey, um, he called me. He was talking with Scott Koenig, who is no longer with us, unfortunately. Scott Koenig was a music manager. He managed Fear Factory and a couple other bands. Really cool guy. And there was a Exodus was on tour, and then their guy fucked up, and they needed a guitar tech like ASAP. It was they were one show on in LA, and I lived in LA at the time. I was living in Hollywood, and they called me at like 1 in the morning. They said, "Hey, can you fucking do this tour? It's 6 weeks, U.S., Canada, and you gotta be on the bus at 4 a.m." And I'm like, "Yeah, I can swing that." And it just so happened I just finished my last show with what I was doing, which was a gig with Dave Navarro and Billy Morrison. We were doing some fucking show, and anyway, I went home. I took a shower, packed a bag, and showed up at the bus. And they're like, "Oh, you're gonna ride on the Exodus bus?" I'm like, "Oh, awesome!" And so I get on the bus, and it's me, Tom, Gary, and Rick and Jack, and they were all sitting there, and Steve Escobar was the singer, but he was already asleep. And so the four of them and I said, "Hey man, I was at that show when the barrier collapsed and the dude broke his leg in 1986." And they were like, "Oh fuck!" And they all remembered it because it was like this. It was this iconic moment, man. It was a riot broke out after that because the cops stopped the show and a riot basically happened and cop cars were set on fire and it was this crazy show. And they remembered it and I was like, "I was there, dude. I was right in the middle of all that shit." And, oh no way! So I was immediately inducted into the Exodus family because of that. And then so we do the tour. I get along with everyone great, and
And you were
Gary's like,
already sober at the time too?
yeah. I was like fucking 10 or 11 years, 12 years sober at this point,
Nice.
and so I got up every day. I did my job. And Gary said I was one of the best guitar techs he ever had because he never had an issue once the entire tour. And then the tour ended, and at the last show, I got up and sang a song with them at the last show, and then based on that, they gave me a call when they like a month later. It was like a month later. I went on another tour with Satyricon, and then as a guitar tech, and then I went to. I was in New York, and I was actually getting tattooed, and Gary called me. It was like Christmas Eve. Gary and Tom called me on speaker. They actually lived together at the time, and they said, "Hey, you want to come out and audition to be in the band?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll do that. I'll be home in LA in a couple weeks." And I went home and I got on my motorcycle and I rode up the coast. I rode up the one and got a hotel near their rehearsal spot in Oakland, this fucking shithole, and auditioned. And I was there for 2 days. The first day I was nervous and terrible, and I couldn't remember the words, and I was like, "Fuck, man!" I was like, "Let me come back tomorrow. I'll bring like a cheat sheet, and let me just give me another chance tomorrow." And they're like, "Okay." So I came back the next day, and then and then and then a couple weeks later, they were like, "All right, cool," and I left. And I remember we were at NAMM a couple weeks later because this was like early January, which is when NAMM was in January. Or February, earlier in the year, and I rode out to NAMM to hang out with them, and then told me at the Fender they were I think they were either Angle or Fender, I forget what booth we were at, maybe it was Angle at the time, and they said, "Hey, here's our new singer," and I'm standing there in a fucking with a fucking blue mohawk and a fucking Exodus shirt from the tour. And I'm like, "Oh, I'm the new singer. All right, cool." And that's where they told me, and it was fucking cool. And I was like, "All right." And then I had a ton of work to do because it's one thing to be a fan and sing along with a CD. It's a completely different deal with a microphone in your hand and the band playing live. And it's just like I mean, everybody thinks, "Oh, I could do it." Yeah, well, it takes a lot more work than you would think. But I did the work. I put it in. I rehearsed with them for a month, and we rehearsed this set, which was basically actually I went and recorded the album over the next few months, and then started rehearsing for a live set. And basically, the live set was the entire Shovel-Headed album, which is the whole album. We were doing every song on it, and then like 5 songs off Bonded, 3 songs off fucking Fabulous, and it was in like 3 songs off Tempo. And it was like we were playing for like an hour and a half, sometimes an hour and 45 minutes every night. We did a month-long tour with 3 Inches of Blood and Crisis, and goddamn, dude, I look back at those set lists and I'm like, holy shit. We were playing like 25 songs, and it was fucking brutal. But I'll have to say, it definitely it made me better because I was, one, I had never done it before, and 2, it was extremely difficult, especially to you listen to Exodus, the words. There's most songs have 3 verses and sub choruses and chorus. There's so much to remember. There's so many lyrics to remember, and it was a difficult thing for me. I don't remember lyrics well. Even when I write them myself, I don't remember them well unless I do constant repetition. They just leave my brain. I don't know if it's my drug use or whatever. It's just a thing I have. But remembering lyrics was like one of the hardest parts of the whole gig. And then learning how to not lose my voice. I mean, that took me like a year, man. It took me a long, like a year to learn how to scream at the top of my lungs, perform, and be as angry as I needed to be to perform those songs, and then not lose my voice at the same time. It was a lot of work for that first, I'd say first year or two were tough. I had bouts of strep throat, and everyone would get sick on tour, and you have to learn how to sing through being sick. Learning how to sing with strep throat. I mean, we weren't at the level where you could be like, well, he's tired tonight, so we're gonna cancel the stadium tour for 2 days and let him. And we'll like it wasn't that level. We had to do the shows. Like it was just like there was no calling in sick, and you know, and that was the road of it, man. That was the road to doing what I was doing. It was definitely trial by fire, especially trying to pull off the bonded stuff and doing it well and giving Paul all the homage that he deserved, so.
Yeah, I was going to ask too. I mean, it's one thing coming in and trying to learn, you said, all the lyrics and trying to learn those, but then you were in the band long enough to start, contributing the lyrics and stuff. How was
Mhm.
that kind of pressure, like to keep it like, well, the fans want, the fans expect this. How do I keep it Exodus?
Well, on the first record, Shovelhead Kill Machine, Gary said, "Hey, here's one of these songs." He had recorded it on a 4-track with a drum machine, and said, "Here's the riffs. Write some lyrics. Let me, well, and if they're good enough, you can write them." And I was like, "Okay." And I was completely fucking completely honored, and then two, it's like, holy shit. So I wrote the song "Karma's Messenger," and I, I got at the time I was using computers. I was using a thesaurus, and I was using a dictionary, and I was like making sure that I wanted things to, and I worked really hard on getting that one song. I mean, it took me days and days to write those lyrics. I wrote them and rewrote them dozens of times before it was finalized, and I finally showed them to Gary. He was like, "Oh, these are fucking great." He read through them. He's like, "Oh, these are awesome." Didn't change a fucking word. He said, "Perfect, cool," and then that was it. And so I got to do that on every record. I wrote a couple on Exhibit A. I wrote, Children Were Worthless God, um, which was Gary always liked the play on words kind of thing. So I used the movie title and changed it a little bit, and then the Ballad of Leonard and Charles was cool, and Democide, and it was about stuff I was reading and stuff I was interested in, and I was writing. I actually wrote a song about sharks. I think it's on Exhibit A. I think, yeah. It's called Devil's Teeth, and it's about great white sharks, man. I
Nice.
snuck it in there. Yeah.
I'll have to go back and listen to that one.
Yeah, yeah.
So how
I,
long did that that run go for you then with those guys?
10 years.
10 years, yeah. Because I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure I seen you guys at Rock on the Range and
yeah.
met you at that uh like
At that
I don't know
show.
if it was 2016 or something like that, maybe.
No, it had to be 2013 or 2014, one or the other. I was out in 2014.
Okay.
So, Rock on the Range. That's when I met actually. Yeah, yeah, that was a good show. That one, that was fun.
Yeah, yeah. And then so then I was looking into your current project, Generation Kill,
Yeah.
and that's I mean, Was this like a project that you were kind of tinkering with before Exodus, or like tell the story a little
No.
bit about how this came together?
Basically, because I would come home from tour, and I I'd be home for 6 weeks. I lived in New York, and the band lived in San Francisco. I hear an echo now.
Uh,
I hear an echo for some reason.
oh, I don't know.
Oh, I
I
hear
know
my.
my AC thing's going, but I'm not.
Oh, okay. All right. It's all good. I'll do it. So in 2008, I came home from tour, and I had like 2 months home. And I lived in New York at the time, and the band was in San Francisco. So I would travel to San Francisco for rehearsals and writing and stuff like that. So it was in between Exhibit A and Exhibit B. So I went home, and I got together with some friends, or a bunch of guys who I'd known from high school, and we got together and just said, hey, let's just play some covers and have some fun. And we had no idea that we didn't have any plans to play clubs or bars. We just wanted to get together and hang out rather than go to a bar or hang out. And so we rented a rehearsal room, and we had fun, man. We'd fucking hang out and, fucking just bullshit and play songs. And then we ended up started writing stuff, and then it turned into a real thing. And we did a demo, and then after the demo, we really the original guitar player Lou Lehman, he passed away, and unfortunately, but he passed away, and then my friend Jason Velez came in to step in. He had filled in for him on a couple shows where Lou couldn't make it, and then so we asked him to join the band, and he came with a bunch of riffs. He came back with a bunch of stuff that was really cool. And I was like, oh man, let's turn this into music songs. We started doing it, and I called Zuess, who I had become really good friends with, the producer. He was working with Rob Zombie at the time, but I caught him at the perfect moment. He was in between projects, and I said, hey man, let's record this record. And so I sent him all the pre-production stuff we had done, and then he said, okay, cool. And we set up a time, and he came in, and he did the drums and the guitars and the bass all in my friend Johnny Rod's studio in Rockland County, New York. And then I was in South America, and I came home from South America, and I went to his house like the next day, and I started doing the vocals, and I was there for about 10 days, and I did all the vocals for the album We're All Gonna Die, and Zeus did an amazing job producing it. And so we had paid him cash. We had paid him out of our pocket. We didn't have a label. We didn't have anything. We we did this demo, got released by this French label, and I had my lawyer get us out of that contract. And we wanted to get a new one with someone else, but we didn't know who. So anyway, we finished the record, and I sent a couple tracks to Lee Altus, and he's like, "Oh man, you guys are fucking killer. Let's go on tour." So we went on tour with Heathen. No record, no fucking like no preview. We didn't have shit. We didn't have anything. We just had these songs we had recorded, and then at the last show, the people from Nuclear Blast came and saw us live, and then they said, "Hey man, we want to sign you." And the next day, they showed up with a contract, and then we signed a contract, and they bought the record, put it out. It did okay, and then from there, we started, doing more shows, and then we started writing. And we were right in the middle of everything, and then we got a new bass player, so we scratched all the music we had written, and we started over with our new bass player, who was Jason Velez's brother, Max. He's also in a band called Undivided, this hardcore band from New York. So we brought Max in, and then we started working on this new record, and then COVID happened. So once COVID happened, everything just kind of got delayed after delayed after delayed, and and then finally we finished the record. We wanted to use Zeus again, but he was tied up working, so we went with Mick Belmore. He did the new D. Snyder solo project, and he did the Corpse Grinder project, and he's done stuff with Jamie Josta. He's done, like, I think, some Josta stuff, and Nick did a killer job mixing this record and getting it done, and then we put it out with we did a distro deal with Nuclear Blast, so they put it out digitally, and we put out all the hard. We did the Art Award. We paid for the hard copies ourselves that we could sell at shows. But we're doing our first tour next month. We haven't toured in 4 years, so it's been a while. So we're gonna go play a bunch of clubs and knock the rust off and try to see what happens. So.
Now, I was reading something too that when this project was like getting started or first go around, that you guys actually collaborated with DMC, Daryl McDaniels
Yeah.
of Run DMC. How did that happen?
So me and Daryl became friends, and he asked me. He heard the song "Carney Love" off the "We're All Gonna Die" record, and he really loved it. And he said, "Hey, can we write a song together for my solo album he was working on?" And I was like, "Sure." And so we got together in New York and recorded the Lot Lizard, and then that just led to more songs. It just, hey, let's keep doing this. We're having fun. We had so much fun hanging out with him, man. I mean, he was so much fun to be around. He was so fucking down to earth and cool, and he's a really good dude. We talked a lot because he's sober also. So me and him had this kind of like a special bond that way, and he's just a very, very cool guy, and he's a fucking living legend, man. He's, you know what I mean? He's fucking half a Run DMC, man. So to write songs with him was amazing. We both said that we should have stopped at 5, but we did 10. But we had fun, man. We just did what we wanted to do, and we were having fun doing it. And then we put it out, and it didn't really go anywhere or do anything, and we didn't expect it to. We thought it was just a little too weird, but it was fun to do. And then we started concentrating on the MKULTRA record, and once we got going on that, that's all we've done since in the last 2 years. That's what we've been doing since 2018, 19. We started working on it, and we would get so far, and then we would finish songs, and then we're like, you know what, this isn't good enough, and we throw it away and start over. Let's just start another one, and that kept happening. And then I remember reading an article with David Gilmour, and he says, Pink Floyd had this way of doing things that were you had to really just abandon a project, because if you kept working at it, you would never think it was finished. You would always find something better to do. You'd always find sometimes you just have to go, okay, I'm abandoning this, and I'm gonna just let it go into the ether, and it'll happen or what's gonna happen. And I when I heard him say that, I understood what he meant. You know what I mean? I mean, songwriting is, you're never satisfied. This could be heavier. This could be darker. This could be meaner. This could be more intricate. This could be, you can always make improvements all over the place. And then sometimes you just got to, go with your instinct and go, okay, this is good, and I'm happy with this, and I'm most proud of the work on that all the boys did on this record, man. The fucking guitar playing, the drumming, bass playing, the riffs they came up with, and then everybody really did just outstanding work, and it's the thing I'm most proud of in my musical career. It's an outstanding record, and it's a record that I would want to listen to, and that's what we did. We wrote songs that we wanted to hear, and so that's why I'm so proud of it.
Yeah, and so on this podcast, sometimes I have a variety of guests on, mostly musicians and stuff, some veterans, but we tend to go down the conspiratorial rabbit hole now and then, so of course, the title of your album, MKULTRA, definitely caught my attention. And I wanted to ask, like, what was, what was your inspiration for choosing that title?
Uh, well, it started with the book Chaos by Tom O'Neill. Um, it's Chaos. It's Charles Manson, the CIA, and the untold history of the '60s. It's this prolific story about how the CIA in 1947 started experimenting on American citizens without their knowledge. They started experimenting on prisoners and people in mental institutions and soldiers, and they were doing it against their will. And they started this secret program trying to create super soldiers. And it was this fantastic story of that he researched, and there's nothing in the book that isn't backed up by fact, by like paperwork, and there's no speculation. And if you read, Search for the Manchurian Candidate, that was another book. It was all based on fact. There was no speculation. This was documents they found and they uncovered, and then they interviewed the people that were part of the documents, and it's this really deep rabbit hole, and it's just one of those things, man, where it's not a conspiracy theory, man. It's real shit. It really happened, and it got exposed in 1972 by the New York Times, and a whistleblower, a guy who worked for the government, said, "This is wrong, and I know it's wrong, and I'm going to expose it," and he did, and it supposedly ended the project, but I doubt that it did. I think they probably just changed the name of it and kept doing what they were doing and have been ever since. But nonetheless, it's a dark, dark chapter of American history, and if you read about it, you'll understand. So I wrote the
Yeah.
lyrics about it, and I wrote songs about it, and then hopefully the people that read will go, "What's MKUltra?" And then they'll look it up, and then they'll know, and it expanded to more people, I hope. So
Yeah, and I agree. I think it's definitely something that they just rebranded because I feel like I mean, since the age of like the television, it's almost like we're all getting a little MK Ultra every day. It depends what you're watching. The past couple of years,
hmm
I believe, has definitely been like a sense of mind control, whether it be from COVID to now this war. If you spend too much time in front of, and we don't got that New York Times type reporters anymore. They're all like part of Operation Mockingbird. So it's like
yeah. Well, it
every day.
seems any whistleblower that comes forward ends up either in prison forever, or living in Russia, or in jail in South America. I mean, they're just like whistleblowing has become like the it's like it's like almost you're like un-American if you're a whistleblower. But the truth is that that's those people I think are the true Americans. You know what I mean? They're the
Yeah.
ones um, yeah, I mean, imagine if you had the balls to, like the guy who released the Pentagon Papers. His family, he had to go into hiding. He had to, there are people that are willing to risk their lives for the betterment of the human race to expose people who are um, searching for power or personal gain or money or greed or whatever it is. They're it always seems to be a three or four fold situation. It's about their agenda is either money or greed or power or women or whatever the fuck their fucking thing is. But when you expose somebody for that and you put your life in danger because of it, it should be rewarded. It should be
Yeah.
honored, but it's
Exactly.
not. It's not, man. It's the other way around.
Look what's
So,
going on with the dude from WikiLeaks right now.
yeah, Julian Assange,
Yeah.
Edward Snowden. Yeah, I mean, I think they're heroes, man. I think Edward Snowden is a hero, and I think it's, I mean, it's a travesty that just because he spoke up. Now, look, man. I mean, if you're gonna expose someone and you you know you can never expose someone to where you put somebody's life in danger. He didn't give the name of spies. He didn't do something that bad. What he did was he exposed the lies of the people. When you understand how a government works, right? The president is like just a puppet of this bigger thing going on, and that bigger thing is called the military-industrial complex. And when the military-industrial complex began, they knew that it was going to get out of control. They talked about it in the very inception of it. Truman talked about it. Eisenhower talked about it. They said, if you let this become a thing, it's gonna grow to be a monster that you're not going to control. And it's exactly what happened. And it's exactly what happened because, look, how much money goes to the Pentagon every year? How much?
Oh,
Three
yeah.
quarters of the annual budget to run the country. You know what I mean? And do you think those people want to give up their power? Do you think they want to give up the money they're making, or and then it becomes this seedy, nightmarish kind of thing where it comes down to, do you know how like CEOs protect themselves? Say a CEO owns say he owns a hog farm, and he has to take all the chemicals in the dump, and he wants to dump it into a water source, like a river or a stream or something like that. The CEO never talks to the guy who actually dumps the water into the lake or the stream. The CEO is protected by layers and layers and layers of people, and they've turned it into third and fourth and fifth party situations where, so they're protected. So the guy gets busted for dumping shit and the thing, and it never reaches the CEO. And if it does, what they do is he resigns with a big fucking wad of money, and then they put somebody else. So I'm gonna fix it. And I mean, dude, there's so many, like, conspiracy theories became kind of a joke in a way because they became so about everything. I mean, imagine that it's gone.
Well, it's like a weaponized term,
Yeah, right. And now you've gone as far as you make it completely ridiculous that, okay, you have these flat Earth people, right? Can you imagine being so diluted in your stupid brain that you believe the Earth is flat? You know what I mean? It's like,
I've actually had Flat Earth Dave as a guest on here.
Fucking flat Earth Dave is a fucking idiot, and I wouldn't let him change oil in my fucking car. All right, you tell him I said that.
I don't know. What's scary is it was probably one of my most viewed episodes so far too. So. But I had him. The reason why I got him on is because some guys on my jiu-jitsu team would razz me because I was asking questions about the push of this certain medical procedure the past couple of years that that everybody has to get because of the fear mongering on TV. And I started asking questions like, "You're such a conspiracy theorist. I bet you think the Earth's flat too." Is the feedback I was getting. It's like it's like a vulgar word now to use to shut me up or whatever,
Yeah.
And so they kept razzing me, and I'm like, I'm going to get the flat Earth guy on my podcast and see what he has to say.
The Earth is flat, and JFK Jr. and JFK are coming back to make Trump president again. Yeah, that's a. Yeah, all right, man. Whatever. All right.
Yeah, don't hold your breath.
Yeah.
But hey, and that reminds me too, because I've had a couple musicians on that share, our views and opinions and stuff, and we've kept in touch. We got like a little group text that we send each other stuff every time something new is going on. Like, don't look over here, look over there, and stuff. But I think we've talked about having like a big like musician conspiracy theory episode, so I'd love to have you back on with that group
I'm
chat.
in.
That'd be great, man.
Yeah, man, I'm in. Fuck it. I love a good debate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I know Sean will be upset if I don't, stick with current events and everything with the band. So I just saw she was just like emailing me, making sure that we were talking. So, like, all right.
Because I'm such a fuck up that I keep fucking missing interviews because of either the 3-hour time change or I just completely forgot. I mean, last week, I don't know what the fuck happened. I think I was in LA and I flew back. I came back from LA and then I overslept and I just kind of missed it. And
Yeah,
I'm just
something about a late night or whatever.
she sets up interviews and I'm such a fucking moron. It's my fault completely. She's awesome. She does all the work and I fucking ruin it. I'm like her worst client, I'm sure.
Yeah, she's great. I've worked with her before with a couple of her clients. But yeah, back to Generation Kill, this MKULTRA album. A lot of, I guess, through your times and travel, obviously, your relationship with Gary, you're able to get Gary to play on the album. And then Chris Poland from Megadeth.
One of my favorite guitar players of all time.
Yeah,
2 of my favorite guitar players of all time played on my record, or my band's record. You know what I mean? Not my record, but me and my boys, man. We have, because we all love, like, me and Jason have loved Gary since like day one. You know what I mean? Like Gary, like that guy's fun. Like Jason Trenzer loves Gary Holt, and Max, the other the bass player, and his brother Jason are like, Chris Poland is one of the greatest guitar players of all time. Cool, I'm gonna get him on the record. So like, no way. I'm like, yeah, man, I'm doing it. And then so I got Chris on, and then I got John Joseph, one of my favorite singers. John definitely has this way that he sings like him and no one else, and he has so John was I love John's philosophy of life. We both come from dark places and came out of it. So me and John have a
he froze up.
Oh, there we go.
All right, there you are.
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
John. Yeah. He's somebody else I definitely want to get on this podcast because he's very outspoken about a lot of what's going on in the world. And I've read his book, The PMA Effect. And actually, Don Foose from the Spud Monsters is a good friend of mine here in Cleveland. And I guess, he's been very influential in Don's life, so I definitely got to get John on at some point.
Cool. Yeah.
But
are you gonna be able to make it to our show in Cleveland? We're gonna be playing there soon.
Yeah, August 2nd. Want to promote that? August 2nd, you're gonna be on tour with Dead by Wednesday, playing at Akron at the Empire. So I'll definitely get that on my calendar, man. Definitely to come out.
I hope you come out. Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely want to connect with you for sure. But I wanted to ask too about the video for Evil Eye. Very Edgar Allan Poe meets I forget how I
David
described
Fincher.
it.
David Fincher.
Yeah.
I read when I first got the riff from Jay, I was going through this thing. I was reading Moby Dick, and then I read, and I was reading Edgar Allan Poe's all his, short stories, and I was reading. So at the time, it just happened to me. I just happened to be reading The Telltale Heart when the day that the riff came to me through email, and so I said, "Oh, I'm going to make this about Telltale Heart." You know what I mean? And that's just how it happened. I just happened to be reading it. If I had been reading Moby Dick, it would have been about a whale for sure. But it happened I was reading that book that day.
And there was definitely some elements of MKUltra and Manchurian Candidate in the video as well. Yeah.
Well, I had the audacity to end the story differently than Edgar did. I added a third verse where, I changed the story at the end. I didn't, I thought about it after. I was like, you fucking asshole. You took Edgar Allan Poe and you added a different ending to one of the, greatest stories ever told. And I was like, well, it's
But
like
it's your
Hollywood, man.
story.
Yeah. So it's kind of, yeah. So anyway,
Yeah,
I
it's
did
like
that.
Once
And then,
Upon a Time in Hollywood, that
yeah,
Quentin Tarantino.
exactly.
You
Exactly. So,
your
yeah. So,
reboot, you know?
yeah. So Wei Sian, the director, he put together the video, and it was amazing, man. He blew my mind. We talked about it beforehand. I let him have full carte blanche. I said, "You do whatever you do." We talked about what we envisioned, and we both agreed, and then that was it. We just and he did an amazing fucking job. It's the best video I've ever been a part of. To be honest with you.
Yeah, no, it was good stuff, man. Highly recommend people checking it out. Um, so yeah, you already mentioned working with Zuess and Nick Belmore in the studio,
Mhm.
bringing your friends in. What kind of like personal goals do you guys have set going forward?
Just to be a part of the touring scene, man. It's so fucking dark out there right now. Even, um, you know, COVID took so much time away from the system, and everyone's trying to get back in. And booking agents and tours, everything is just booked, man. Everything is booked from 2 years ago. So it's been really difficult to get out there and find tours to be a part of, or people are willing to, take a chance and put out there. I mean, some stuff that's happening was planned for 2 years ago, so now it's just finally happening. So we're trying to wiggle our way in there, and so we went and did this one on our own. We made all the phone calls. No booking agent. We just went and called and put a tour together ourselves, and we're gonna jump in fucking vans and go do it. You know what I mean? So yeah,
Yeah, nice, man.
yeah, old
Um,
school.
yeah, take it back, man. um, well, we've been going on for about an hour now.
Hmm.
I don't know if you got a little bit more time. I'd like to ask you some of the questions I normally ask
Okay,
guests
go
I
ahead.
have on.
Yeah, let's
Awesome.
do it.
So you mentioned a lot about your early influences when you got into music, but who are your top three current bands?
That I'm listening to right now,
Yeah,
or top bands of all time.
your top of all time.
Uh, Top of the list is Queen. Um, I'm gonna say, fuck, man, that's top three is difficult, but Queen is number one. Um, I'm gonna say number two is Judas Priest. Oh, I mean, how could you? I mean, it's a toss up between Priest and Sabbath. So those two, I'm gonna. Rob Halford is fucking so amazing. So um, and probably the Doors. So those three bands really influenced me as a musician, as far as um, songwriting and lyric content. And I mean, I don't sing as well as any of those, but they each have their own distinct sound, and I hope to achieve that one day. I don't know if I have yet. It would be hard for me to talk about myself in that sense, but I know that I never tried to rip anyone off. I did what was best for the song that I was in and part of. That's how I looked at it. You know what I mean? So, um, but yeah, it's hard to leave out Mike Patton, and it's hard to leave out Hetfield, and it's hard to leave out so many fucking bands, man. I mean, but those three, if I was on an island, you gave me those three would be the top three that I would have in my playlist if that's where I was stuck. Yeah.
Gotcha. And then is there a particular song that you feel has inspired you that's like You know, when it's like a go-to every time you're like, it's always, you know, it never gets old on your playlist, but it also is something that helps like pick you up if you're going through a slump.
All Dead by Queen. It's on the album News of the World. Um, it's one of these, perfect, beautiful songs that um, brought me to tears as a kid, and every once in a while it brings me to tears now when I listen to it. Just depends what kind of mood I'm in, but it's I think it's one of the greatest songs ever written, um, and it just it wasn't it wasn't Bohemian Rhapsody. It wasn't it wasn't this grand operatic song that Queen was known for, but it was just this simple piano piece um, with beautiful lyrics and Freddie's beautiful voice. It's just one of those songs that it's just, to me, one of the greatest songs ever written.
Yeah, agree. And then, what's the last book you've read?
The last book I read was The New Confessions of a Economic Hitman, which is about a CIA agent who overthrew
Is it the John Perkins book?
governments. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah,
Buddy of
yeah.
mine gave me that as a gift when I came home from my deployment.
Yeah.
That kind of started the journey.
Well, he wrote a new one. It's called The New Confessions of a Economic Hitman. So there's a newer version of it,
Oh,
and
okay.
it like picks up where the other one left off. And I just started reading it the other day. I tried reading this movie Ant Kind by and it was so fucking weird. It's the guy who wrote the movie Being John Malkovich, and he wrote this book called Ant Kind, and I got about halfway through it, and I was like, I felt like I was having a brain aneurysm. I was like, what? I either need to stop reading this or I need to start over because I was completely just lost. And I was part of a book club we would read 200 pages and talk about it. And I felt so stupid because every time we'd have the book club, I'd be like, I can't make it, man. And it was really just, and I said, I can't make it. They're like, why? I go, because I'm too stupid. I don't have anything constructive to say about it. I gotta read it again. And they
Thing's
all
about
just,
to make my head explode. I gotta take a break. Mental
yeah,
health
man.
break.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a crazy book. I mean, you guys want a crazy book to read? 700 pages. It's called Ant Kind, and it's intense, man. I mean, but it definitely it hurt my brain, but it's a crazy book. Yeah,
Gotcha. And then,
yeah.
what class do you feel should be mandatory before graduating high school?
Metal shop or automotive, one of the two. Like they should bring back like metal shop and wood shop and all those. Those are learning how to do stuff with your hands is indispensable for a life. Uh, you know, um, I love those classes. Not everybody's set up for music class, and not everybody's set up for math class. So some people's brains don't work that way. You know,
Yeah.
I was I was more of a history major and science, but I love metal shop. I build cars for a living. That's what I do. It's my day job. And I restore old cars, and learning to work with my hands young was indispensable for solace, and then it provided me a career later and when I needed to work. And yeah, so
Yeah, I
metal shop.
agree, man, for sure.
Welding metal is fucking awesome, dude. Nothing is more satisfying than welding two pieces of metal together, man. Yeah.
And then, who are three people who've inspired you or you can credit for making you the person you are today?
Oh, Mr. Triasi. He was a my math teacher in high school, and he told me when you graduate, you should buy a motorcycle and ride across the country, and I did. So I thank him for that. Um, uh, um, and then Jack Grisham from TSOL. When I was 25, I was lost, and I was lost in a world of alcohol and drugs, and and I reached out to him, and he helped me, and he helped me find a new way to live, which was indispensable, and one of those things that can only be repaid by helping other people, because he didn't ask anything for it, and Jack is just one of those people. Been friends with him a long time, and he's helped me in my life, and uh, I would love to say my dad. Um, Me and my dad have become really good friends over the last 10, 12 years. But before that, we didn't have a relationship at all. So, growing up, he was always my favorite person, but he wasn't around. So I was angry at him for a really long time. And but because of that anger, I turned into who I was, and then um, reaching out to him to um, fix that relationship. Um, it's been, you know, I mean, it's just been this beautiful journey. I wish that we didn't have to go through all the other stuff, but obviously we did to get where we are now. And as a guy who's my friend, I talk to him, every week, and you know, I went and saw him recently, and we just had these great, deep, meaningful conversations about everything, and I don't keep anything from him. He's, so I'm gonna say my dad. You know, and,
That's awesome, man. I remember I could relate because I mean my dad was around for me growing up and stuff, but he's a World War II Marine. He was in the invasion of Okinawa, so I was exposed to PTSD before it was, you know,
a thing.
a
Yeah,
thing. And so then there was a lot of I grew up with a lot of anger, like I'm never gonna please this dude, never gonna make him happy, a lot of
yeah,
resentments and stuff. So then I, you know, went and did my drinking and acting out, and I luckily made a career in the Navy. But it wasn't until my last deployment where I came home and I got sober, where I was able to get that relationship together and bury everything. We said everything we needed to say to each other while he was still alive, and then he passed in 2018. But I was sad, but at the same time, I was also grateful that I wasn't carrying any of that resentment and stuff anymore. We had buried that and we had healed that relationship, and
yeah,
I was at peace knowing that. So that's awesome, man.
yeah.
Definitely.
I
Cool.
did it with my mom and my dad. So it was, it's hard to leave my mom off the list, but you only give me three. But I remember doing it with both my parents, and sitting down with them individually, and having these conversations. And since then, you know, it's one of those things, man. You got to be able to, like, forgiveness is a motherfucker. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's hard to do. And but I found that when you forgive people for the things they did wrong, and you can honestly forgive them, honestly deep in your heart, and then you move forward with it changes everything. And my relationship with my mom and my dad is a beautiful thing. And I didn't have it for most of my life. I mean, it's only in the last decade or so did this happen, and I'm so glad it did, because it would have been a. I remember how unhappy I was
Yeah.
before that, and to rectify those situations, it's been awesome. It's been great.
Yeah, for sure, man. And my mom's still with us, so my part of my living amends is just being present and being of service to her whenever she needs
Yeah,
help, even if it's the dumb things like my cable box isn't working right and I got to drive over there and just flip a switch or unplug something or whatever.
yeah,
It's just like,
I
I
get it.
promised my old man, that I'd take care of his bride, when he's gone. And, my mom's kind of, he was smart. He married younger. So she's still able to get out there. And now she's going on bus trips and, got two golf leagues and all that stuff. But,
Right on.
whenever she needs me, I'm there, to help out,
Cool.
So it's definitely a beautiful thing, man, especially walking this, I mean, working this recovery program. And here's a memory that well, we'll see. You know, it takes everybody way back, but you already talked a little bit about, you know, your love for marine biology and stuff. But did you have a favorite toy as a child?
The Evil Knievel wind up motorcycle,
Yeah,
dude. The one where you wound it up real fast and you push a button and you jump. I love that one. That was my toy.
dude,
That's
that's
what I
like the
remember.
number one, the most
Is it?
brought up one when I asked that question on here.
Yeah.
I've had so many people that have bring that up. In fact, I've had Scott, who was an original member of the Starboys stunt team. You know, that was his, of course. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, that's awesome. And then, any message that you have for our military members currently serving overseas?
Oh man. Yeah. I love you guys, man. I wrote an album. My band is named after, you know, first recon Marines, Generation Kill. They went into Baghdad, and a book was written about them, and I named the band after that book because I was so moved by the book. And you know, I wrote the whole album. I wrote a song called Red, White, and Blood. You know, and I wrote the song. I wrote the song "Hate" was about the guys who were in Bastogne, World War II. Um, you know, uh, and I've always had, you know, I have a couple of my buddies are Marines, and my friend Rocky is one of my cigar buddies. I smoke cigars with him a lot, and he tells me a lot of stories, and you know, it's I wish I had the ability to go over and play for the on the USO stuff and go do that and go into those places and bring them some music that might make them feel either angry or happy. What's weird too is the military is made up of kids from everywhere. So there's a lot of country, and there's a lot of rock, and then there's metal, and then there's just there's such a eclectic group of people. But yeah, I have just so much just love for them. You know what I mean? So you know, I hope you come home safe, and I hope you get all the help you need mentally when you do get home, and physically. And I hope that you don't get hurt. And I'm pulling for drone armies, so we don't have to send anybody over there anymore. That'd be great. Just
Yeah,
you know,
or it
um,
could turn around and bite us in the ass later.
yeah, well, yeah, and then it turned into Terminator, which
Yeah,
is
Skynet.
probably gonna happen anyway. So whatever. But um, yeah, man, I've I did not serve myself because I was a fuck up, and I got arrested at 17, and I couldn't go into the Marines because of it. And because of that, there was that was the only place I wanted to go. I did think about it at one point, and then after being arrested, I couldn't get in. I had like a chip on my shoulder, and I just you know I did. I was angry that I couldn't go in. I was angry myself that I fucked up and I drank about it. You know what I mean? It was one of those things. And, but
Yeah,
I got nothing but love for the soldiers, man. I really do. And they do an impossible task for people that um, I don't think appreciate it. I think a lot of times they get, they're just statistics, and that doesn't bring joy to me to know that, to know that um, rich old men send young boys off to go fight their battles, rather than, you know. Have you ever read the story of JFK when he was a commander of a PT boat? You ever read that
no,
story?
no, I
Dude,
haven't.
do a little research. JFK was just read the story of JFK when he was a PT commander in World War II, and what he did. When you think about, when you read the story, you'll be like, wow, this is one of the most astounding human beings to ever walk the planet. And I think when they murdered him, in front of all of us, I think it changed the world. I think it changed the trajectory of planet Earth, and to a really dark fucking place. I mean, that's just my personal opinion, but you know,
I agree.
You know, I think it was one of the most tragic things that ever happened. And you know, once again, here was a guy who was a kid, a soldier, came from a rich family, went anyway, and did some. Just, I mean, the story is awe-inspiring when you read it. My phone just said 10%, so let's. I didn't want to. If I die before then, I don't want it to be because I hung up. It's just my phone is going to die. So.
All right, yeah. Well, we're getting ready to wrap up now. If anybody in our audience that wants to support you guys and check out what's going on with Generation Kill and support the band, where would you send them?
You can go to generationkillband.com. You can go to our Instagram page, or we have all the social media. You can come check out my podcast called Put Up Your Dukes. I interview musicians and other people and writers and stuff. So just come to a show, man. That's like the what we're trying to do right now is go out and play live and come see a show. We're a fun live band. We're really good. We're fun. We try to have a good time and try to make sure everyone else has a good time. So, yeah.
Nice. So. Well, we'll definitely connect, Rob, for sure, man. Got
a
lot of kindred, lot of stuff in common. I'd love to talk more with you. I did slide my number in the private chat for you.
Okay.
But one last favor before I let you go. You mind cutting a promo ID for the show?
No, let's do it.
Just introduce yourself, and you're listening to today's Boondoggle.
Hey, this is Rob Dukes from Generation Kill, and you're listening to today's Boondoggle.
Awesome. Rob, thank you so much for your time, brother. I appreciate talking with you, man.
It's
good. I'm glad we made it happen.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Sorry about last week when I missed it. So.
Yeah, no problem, man. We'll keep in touch.
All right, brother.
All right, bye-bye.